Agile and we've been reading Gita. Probably we've not been integrating both of that and trying to understand how to implement it on a day-to-day basis. This morning I had a conversation with that young girl out there, and I asked her how effective is Agile in your organization. She said may not be as effective. And I was in the corporate a long time ago, probably about a decade ago. Now I'm a professor and I'm a researcher. So I said, it was the same case then too, because people work on Agile with the wrapper class as of a waterfall model. Most probably, I'm not sure how effective it is in most of the organizations. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Any show of hands is how effective has been Agile implementation in your organizations?
Yeah, so they make the stories like milestones.
Yeah.
They put stories, it will be never ending.
Every organization has their own definition.
Yeah, precisely. So the manifesto's Agile manifesto is not implemented in its true sense. Probably that's the reason there is a little bit of skepticism still in people in the implementation of Agile. So I wanted to bring how we are talking about Agile today. Krishna implemented it 5,000 years ago. Yeah. So this is a challenge of superficial Agile adoption and importance of what is important is a mindset transformation. Do I really believe in the Agile manifesto? Do I believe in implementing it, focusing on people rather than the processes all the time? Do I truly believe in collaboration? We just had an activity a while ago about different personas. So maybe the different personas is where the conflict starts, where we have lost faith in the actual implementation of Agile, at least some of us. So what is important is the transformation in the mindset. So I would like to say Arjuna also had a dilemma there in the warfield, not in the office setup or in an educational setup. He was in a great dilemma. He was hesitant on the battlefield. He was not sure how to actually approach his own people, how to approach his people whom he felt very close to, though they didn't feel the same way. Maybe there could be a lot of such scenarios that you would be having in your office as well. So due to fear of uncertainty as well, he was not sure of what would happen. Though he was on the side of right, he was not sure what would happen. So Agile leaders, I would say, should be enablers than commanders. So how often do Agile leaders empower their team rather than just wearing the role of a Scrum Master or an Agile manager or a product owner, but actually playing the role of a project manager in a hierarchical system? So, is it command and control, or is it are they really enablers wherein they empower their team to make decisions? So there in the warfield, I was asking somebody this morning is how effective is Agile, AI implementation in Agile. I at least put it on the photographs. All my pictures are AI driven, based on the stories I've developed. So Agile is a mindset, not just frameworks, all of us know this. And it's about responding to change over following a fixed plan. We always talk about requirement volatility. We talk about uncertainties in the business, changing business scenarios. So in fact, in the warfield, there's total uncertainty. We're talking about people who are just getting killed in the battlefield. We're talking about lives out there. But at that point in time, he actually implemented this. Alignment with the Gita's emphasis on adaptability and clarity of purpose. So when does the derailment actually happen? When there's no clarity of purpose. She just spoke of it in the theater session out there. So when we have a clarity of purpose, then I think the entire team gets aligned. If there is no clarity, irrespective of what role they play, then that's where it's very difficult to actually drive the team in a direction where everybody is walking together, everybody feels empowered and moves in a single direction. So it's about adaptability and having a clarity of purpose. Am I adaptable to situations every day, or am I sticking on to the requirements that was given to me when I started the project? We're talking about sprints. Every sprint, right? It's a short sprint, but still even amid sprints, there could be requirements that could be creeping in, which could probably be a demotivator for some people. Saying, I've planned for something, but something is coming in my way. I've planned for my leaves, but something is coming in my way. I'm not able to deliver the speed at which it's expected. Either there is volatility, either there is scope creep, or it could be because they want to deliver on time. There could be a compromise on quality. Keeping all of this into factor, how do we still go ahead and deliver it? So what is important is responding to change and letting go of rigid outcomes. Focus on purpose, not the results. Am I living in the moment, all the time. When I make the decisions, when new requirements coming in, am I going all over the place saying, oh, new requirements have come in, how do I go about changing the plan? I plan something, what do I do about my team's leaves? What do I do about the deliverables that I promised to the customer? Am I getting finicky about the whole thing and I'm going all over the place, not being able to take the right decisions? Or am I in a calm state of mind, just focusing on the purpose and being in a position to be able to make clear decisions? So when would we get to that state? When we focus just on the purpose, not on the results, not on the outcome. Of course, outcome is extremely important. But if the focus is only on the outcome, if it's on the goalpost, we would just miss the path on the way. So that's what he tried to say long ago. He would say, Karmani vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. You have a right to perform your duties, but not to the fruits thereof. When the focus is on the results, if there is some slip, even when during one sprint, then somewhere the thought process, the way we approach a situation could go for a toss. But if we were to live in that present moment and focus on the final goal or the final purpose of the overall vision of the project or the organization, then at least that person who makes the decision, whoever is part of the team, will have a stable state of mind, will be in calm in any situation. And that is when the entire project, the entire team would be at peace and still be able to deliver what's expected of them. So this is a principle that he taught long ago. So it's about responding to change over following a fixed plan by having a calm state of mind. And then about yoga, he also said yoga karma kaushalam, which is yoga is skill in action. So we talk about different roles people play. About when the team is formed, we just spoke of how effective the team is. How effective is each member of the team is. Are they playing the right role? Are they given the right role based on their capabilities? Am I looking at the capability matrix before I even form the team, be it the product owner or the agile coach? Is the person doing it that way? Or, they're just in between the team and then suddenly they realize that somebody is off track, they're not able to deliver as per the requirement. So basically, yoga is skill in action. Skill is one aspect, also with the right attitude. If there is a lack of skill, if at least the attitude is right, if the person is calm enough and able to pull the sock and then still be able to gather and take the team forward, then I think that again will lead to a purpose-driven action. So it's about self-mastery for continuous improvement. Managing the team is one, talking to the peers is one, interacting with other team members is one. We always focus on what the other person does. Do we really focus on what is the response, or why is that the other person is responding the way they're responding? By doing some self-introspection. So have I mastered myself? Does each of them in the room, have they mastered themselves in terms of being a master of their thoughts, being a master of their emotions? Is everybody self-aware at that point in time to see if my decision right, if my team member is retaliating, why is it that they're retaliating? Is it because of the way I've spoken? Is it because of something that's causing them to speak that way? Or is there a genuine concern that I need to address? So I think when we say skill in action, it's not about the capability in terms of what they have attained, and it's not about the certifications, it's about the actual capability, their attitude. I think all of this put together forms capability in action. So that is what he mentioned in terms of yoga karma kaushalam. In fact, Arjuna, though he had a lot of capability, his knees fumbled, he threw his weapons, he said, I cannot fight, I cannot do all of that, though he had the capability. So he needed that kind of a messaging then, where he had to be inspired and he had to say, no, you have the capability to go and do what you need to do, and he had to listen to a whole lecture all the time. And in terms of implementing it in cross-functional teams in Gita's context, aligning individual strengths with collective purpose. Everybody has a goal, everybody has their objectives set. But is everybody walking towards a collective purpose, or is everybody focusing only on their own goals and objectives and their own appraisals? Yeah, it's about the team's purpose, it's about the organization's purpose at the end of the day. So even if there is a slack in the team lead or the project manager or the scrum master getting derailed at some point in time because of whatever, there should be somebody in the team, at least if not everybody, if they walk towards this, there should be somebody who should be able to go back and tell them that what we are doing is not in alignment with the project's vision, or it's not in alignment with the organization's vision. At least are people capable enough to question with the confidence level that they are supposed to have to be able to drive. Everybody is a leader. It's not that, it's not about the leadership by virtue of the designation. It's about everybody plays the role of a leader and then moves towards this, towards a common goal. And Krishna's ability to guide each role uniquely. Not just Arjuna, I think he spoke to each of them separately. I think he guided Abhimanyu, he guided Arjuna, he guided a lot of people, the Bhima, the way he had to, I mean, it was completely strategic. What he did was completely strategic. To us, it may look like there are some decisions which he did not do right, but then it was all a strategic move. So it was completely skill in action. It's able to guide each role uniquely. If a coach is able to play this role in the teams, then the agile projects would be much more successful. The agile implementation would be a lot more successful as well. So harnessing diverse skills in self-organized teams. And what's important is resilience all the time. And iterative growth. Growth doesn't happen on one day. I mean, everybody fumbles, everybody makes a mistake. I've learned agile fine if I'm able to implement Gita to at least 1% to 2% of what's taught in Gita. And still it's an iterative thing, right? So ultimately everybody is human, we're bound to err. So, but if there is a kind of retrospect, we talk about retrospect in agile, but if there is kind of a retrospect that we have in our own minds about ourselves and the way we respond in our day-to-day lives, I think we're talking about iterative growth here, the iterative growth of the self, for the team, for the organization, and and importance of skillful, mindful action. And it's about, that's where we speak of agile's retrospective and iterative refinement practices. Okay, so this is his guide for navigating uncertainty. How many of you here feel uncomfortable when on the phase of uncertainty, be it in projects, be it in terms of your personal life? Because I think it cannot be separated out, right? So you have some uncertainty, it just reflects back on the day-to-day work. Likewise, the other way around as well. So how many of you get jittery when on the phase of uncertainty? So the way to actually navigate uncertainty is about trying to just live in the moment, practice the pause, and do some introspection, have some quiet time, a silent moment. And in that space where there are no thoughts, there is no uncertainty, you're just living there in the present moment, and answers do arise. I mean, you'll find some solutions there for yourself, for your team as well. And clarity of purpose will enable that calm decision making. And agility thrives in uncertainty through adaptability. See, we've been living with hierarchical systems for a very long time, about hierarchical models, waterfall models. It's about we don't even know where we are heading to. Maybe if it's a project is 1 year long, we don't know where it's heading to. But at least we have the boon of agile where every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, we get to know that we at least have a deliverable product. So life is typically agile, right? So we don't know what's going to happen the next day. So, I mean, if we could implement it on a day-to-day basis and take it to the workplace as well, I think the project will be much more successful the agile way. So, merging agile principles with Bhagavad Gita's wisdom, responding to change is adaptability. Self-organization is about empowerment of one's own self, empowerment of the team. Continuous improvement is about the self-mastery. And purpose-driven action is when we have clarity of vision. Clarity of vision for ourselves. Ultimately, it's about individuals' aspirations also. Does the individual's aspirations align with the organization's aspiration? Does it align with the project's aspiration? Does it align with your own aspirations? If everything is in alignment, then there's no looking back. I mean, everything would move in the right direction. So, focus on teachings. Again, I just spoke of Karmanyevadikaraste. Krishna empowers each warrior based on their dharma. Agile teams, we talk about Swadharma, right? So we say everybody is born to do something. I mean, so it's about he aligns people to their dharma. It's about aligning people to their roles based on their strengths. He did not do a SWOT analysis in the battlefield. So it was all predefined. So he knew what was right, who had to play the role. And it was aligned and assigned accordingly. So I think at the start of the project, maybe when the initial planning is done, all of this has to be done and has to be taken forward. But if there is a change, all of this, we spoke about resilience, agility, we spoke about adaptability. If you could put all of this together, then it'll become easier to navigate change, even in terms of uncertainty. And Krishna was a guide, not a dictator. Agile leaders as facilitators, not as micromanagers. So at any given point in time, one has to find out if the way they talk to the team, the way they navigate the team, are they being dictators or they being enablers? Maybe we do not have time to do some introspection when we are on the run for making deliverables, but I think it's important at least at the end of the day. So, service about authority or command and control, empowered Arjuna to make decisions. It's about intrinsic motivation, and it's about self-organizing and cross-functional teams. We spoke of it already. And more importantly, he was a servant leader. He was driving. He said, "I'll not carry any weapons. I'll drop everything." He was being more of a servant leader. And that is what is important in a true agile practice. He did not wear the role of, he just threw his designations. He threw the designation of being a god. And he was able to drive the person and in a way, I think maybe that's something that we all need to do when we work in an organization. Do we wear the hat of the designation that we carry, or are we just an individual out there working with the teams? Because agile is all about a flat organization structure. So, am I empowering everybody? Am I able to take them along with me? And am I giving importance to each of their individual aspirations while I look at my aspirations as well as the organization's goal? And when does it happen? When there's a sense of equanimity. Equanimity within us to situations. Come what may, whether the outcome is positive or otherwise, am I being equanimous? Am I being in a stable state of mind, not jumping when I succeed, not fumbling when I fail? If I'm able to have an equanimous state of mind, then the decisions will naturally emerge. We don't have to make decisions. Decisions happen. So last but not the least, agility is not about speed, a common misnomer. It's about being adaptable. It's just about following the flow. There was one other discussion that we had this morning where somebody presented on going with the flow. So agility is about going with the flow. It's not about just running to the goal. It's not about being quick, but just taking the flow, taking things at its stride, being in the moment, and still being able to deliver with the right quality. An agile leader doesn't impose solutions, but illuminates the path like Krishna did for Arjuna. True agility lies in detachment from fixed outcomes. Work with focus, not obsession on the outcomes. May sound repetitive, but reinforcement is important. Yeah. The battlefield Kurukshetra is like the modern business world, uncertain, dynamic, ever-changing, and adaptability wins. When the fog of war clouds judgment, clarity of purpose is the agile leader's guiding light. And resilience and uncertainty is the hallmark of both warriors and agile teams. So the cloud of judgment goes away when we do not look at people's roles, but look at them as individuals for their capability, for their innate nature. The best leaders don't pull the chariot, they empower the rider. An agile leader asks questions that awaken wisdom, not just compliance. Oftentimes we look at processes, we say this is what we need to follow. With the confines of policies and processes, we tend to let go of certain things that, of course it's important because that's how organizations function, because that's how we can streamline things. But in the, idea of just following the processes, we should not lose focus on the people or the outcomes. And that's what we say, people over processes, and collaboration over following a plan. Then self-organizing teams thrive when leaders let go of control and focus on enabling. Growth happens not in comfort, but in reflection and refinement. When everything is comfortable, things seem to move smooth. But how much of learning happens when everything moves smooth? Learning happens when the journey is like this. If it's like this, it looks smooth. But when it's like this, the acceleration is much more, and you tend to reach the goal faster. The goal that not the perceived goal, but the actual goal that each of them should be striving to move towards for one's own benefit and for the benefit of the organization. Excellence then is not a milestone, it's an iterative journey. Agility is a dance between action and reflection. Work hard, step back, and refine through retrospective. Lead by serving, not commanding. Foster team resilience and purpose-driven actions. Encourage adaptability and iterative growth. Some practical takeaways. Focus on purpose, not just tasks. Empower team members to own their roles. Strengthen resilience and adaptability in each of the workflows that you do. Even when you do the planning, you will have to actually mention that. Most importantly, we oftentimes preach. Do we really practice what we preach? We tell our teams to do certain things, but do we really do what we do? For example, change management. If we'll have to bring an agile change management, I move from an waterfall model to an agile model, or maybe an agile model to a better form of agile model. Am I practicing it in the first place in its true spirit and then telling my team, or am I just telling the team and I'm not practicing it myself? So I think leaders lead by example. That's yeah. So, and agility isn't a trend; it's a timeless principle woven into the very fabric of leadership. So that's it. Step into the agile arena, guided by wisdom, not by fear of uncertainty or the fear of what's going to happen to me. It's not about the fear of what's going to happen to my team, to my organization. It's just about be willing to go into the guided by wisdom. Explore how ancient wisdom can deepen your agile transformation. So I think all of this was practiced long ago by Lord Krishna in the Mahabharata. I'm not sure how many of them out there have heard of him and the way he is implemented. But every facet of Bhagavad Gita, at least the few things that I've put together, I've just spoken of 2-3 things. I've spoken of Samatvam, I spoke of skill in action with the right attitude, and focusing on the purpose and not the results. I've just spoken of 3 key things here. I think if we could implement at least these things, we've spoken a lot in terms of self-mastery. We've spoken about what to eat, how do you conduct your mind, or what you eat, how does it have an influence of a mind. He's spoken a lot, but I'm not speaking about all of that today. I think even if we could just take at least these 3 takeaways, I think we'll have a better functioning agile team. Yeah.
Questions from Haripriya on Krishna's servant leadership. Yeah.
Hi, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really nice, insightful talk, actually. My question is, everybody has their own strengths and weakness. And, there is many books and many theories say that you should always work on your strengths so that you see more achievement or success. So what is your take away? There are people who say the otherwise also. You have to work towards your weakness so that to make it. But, there are 2 different theories or 2 different talks. So they say, work on your weakness so that to make it, or it is like you have to only. What is your take on that? Working on strengths is the
Focusing on strengths is important, because if you focus on your weakness, your confidence will take a hit. So focus on the strengths, but be aware of the weakness. The moment the awareness of weakness is there, that's why self-awareness is important. When I'm aware that I've done something wrong, the next time I wouldn't do the mistake. Or similarly, when I'm aware that there's some weakness that I have, naturally the weakness would get transformed into strength someday or the other. If not immediately, in the near future. Right? Self-awareness, no. Self-awareness is important. Being aware of what you are as an individual. What are your strengths? What is your weakness? What is your capability? Focus on the strength, move towards that, but be aware of the weakness. It's not that it's okay if I'm have this weakness. No. Awareness of that weakness is important, but somewhere it has to be, you have to work on it subtly, not focusing on that. Be aware. That's why I said it's iterative. The refinement has to be iterative, be it in your project, be it in your code, be it in your personality. It has to be iterative.
Any questions? Okay, we are done with
Yeah,
time.
sure.
Yeah, thank you, Haripriya, for this wonderful session. Yeah, round of applause for you. And thank you, audience, for coming in and hearing out the correlation between agility and Bhagavatam.